the voice of Nassau Community College.
I love this station.
90.3 WHPC.
WHPC HD Garden City.
.3 WHPC. Welcome to From the Press Box. I am your co-host, Rob Leonard, and joining me every week is my other co-host, or my co-host, I should say, Tim Leonard. And yes, we are brothers.
Your co-host in life.
And today we have a second co-host on our show, longtime sports director at News 12 Westchester. Walt Fowler joins us. Hello, Walter. How are you?
Hey, Rob. Hey, Tim. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here and looking forward to the next hour. Should be fun.
And I should say I've known Walt for a long time. I started out at GBB. You were there before me at GBB in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And then you went to New Sport for a while when New Sport was around.
In Port Washington.
And then
the old ADM studios.
That's right. And then up at News 12 Westchester for 21 years.
Yep.
And I thought we'd have Walt on the show. I've always wanted to have you on, but you're always up at
I know.
News
I was
12.
always working, but now I get some free time. So
some free time. So also on today's show, last week we talked, who did we talk with last week?
Andy Vasquez of the Bergen Record.
Of the Bergen Record. We talked about the Jets draft. To be fair to the Giants and
we spent so much time talking about the Jets, we never really got to the Giants. So
right, so let's get to the Giants.
I talked my man Art Stapleton into coming on with us, and we're going to do a little Giants draft analysis.
And we have Walt here, who's Mr. Giants. So.
Well, I think Art would be Mr. Giant, but I'm happy to chime in.
You're a Giant fan.
A good long time. We had my father, season ticket holder for 20 years. I had him for more than 20.
I remember that. that. So you're
a
little bit of a
Giant fan.
You're more of a Giant fan than a Jet fan. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I would say so. Yes.
So let's start off with the big story right now in New York sports. It's the Dark Knight.
It's not a good story.
It's not a good story.
You know how I am about trying to start the show with a positive. We can't do that this week, thanks to Matt Harvey.
Yeah, Matt Harvey is suspended for 3 days. He, I don't know.
He screwed up, is what he did.
He did. He claimed he had a migraine or something, and he wasn't there Saturday, or something.
Yeah,
there's a lot to speculate here, but there's not a lot we've heard so far.
Well, the reporting and most of what I've seen is from John Heyman and Ken Rosenthal. And the story goes that Matt Harvey was out playing golf on Saturday. He, at some point during his round, developed a migraine headache and apparently didn't really call the Mets or called them too late to tell them that he didn't want to come to work that day. Now, my case is this, and my point is this as far as Matt Harvey is concerned. Baseball players and athletes in general, professional athletes, have access to probably some of the finest medical care available.
Absolutely.
So if Matt Harvey's point is, well, I have a migraine and I really don't feel good and I don't want to do anything, and I've had migraine headaches. They're not fun. I mean, they are very much debilitating. But with the kind of care that's available in Citi Field, get your butt in a cab, go to the ballpark, see what they can do for you, and if you still feel miserable, they'll just send you home. He wasn't pitching on Saturday. He was supposed to pitch yesterday. So whatever his pre-start routine is, I don't know if he actually would have even had to do anything except show up and maybe chart pitches. I don't know. I know the pitchers used to do that the day before their starts. But it would have been an easy, simple day for him, no exertion. And instead, he decides, well, I'm just going to stay home.
Well,
so they suspended him for 3 days.
I think the problem is this happened to Yoenis Cespedes. If you're hurt or you're getting hurt playing golf, maybe they shouldn't allow him to play golf during the season.
Well, I think that might be hard to do because there's a lot of downtime. I mean, baseball's a long season, and you do have downtime and days off and whatnot. So I don't think it's so much that. It just seems to be that he really ticked the Mets off with whatever he did. It's if it is the migraine and he wasn't feeling good, he should have contacted the Mets ASAP and gotten over there. But it's just when you said his nickname is the Dark Knight, now the focus more is on dark than night because everything Harvey does is turning dark.
Yeah. And you have to remember, I mean, the other thing that I was going to bring up, even had this not happened with the suspension, Harvey in his last 3 starts has not been good. You look at what he's done and what his numbers are. His last 3 starts, 5 strikeouts in 16 and 2/3 innings. That's not him. He's supposed to be a guy.
The Yankees to sign next
well,
year.
No, I might have said that 2 years ago, but now he's at a point. I mean, I figured that after he came back from this thoracic outlet surgery, I figured that all right, we'll finally see the Matt Harvey that Met fans got used to seeing and got used to dominating. I don't know if we're ever going to see that Matt Harvey again, because if you look, all right, first of all, now his ERA is over 5. He is at best on this Met staff a number 3 starter, and that's only because Zach Wheeler has been hurt for 2 years and Steven Matz can't stay healthy. So with the Mets pitching staff basically in a shambles right now after Syndergaard has now been put on the DL for 2 months and the Mets are saying we probably won't see him before the All-Star break, how does Matt Harvey let this happen? His team is they're getting guys injured left and right on almost a daily basis. Somebody's getting hurt with the Mets, and he just doesn't show up because, and again, I don't want to trivialize a migraine, but it's a headache. Get your ass to the park.
I have no proof of this, but when you're left with these questions, these unknowns, you start to speculate and think.
Right.
And to your point, Tim, of him having not pitched well over the last three outings, you almost get the sense, and this is just me, and this is speculation, but maybe he wasn't looking forward to pitching Sunday night. Maybe he felt, for whatever reason, his body, and maybe he did have a headache or a migraine, and maybe he just thought, you know what, I'll skip my start. But he kind of, even if that's in the back of his mind, the way he went about it was not the way to address it. Right?
Exactly.
11th hour, letting the Mets know he's not going to be around and he's not feeling well.
Exactly. And then he showed up to pitch yesterday, and the Mets told him when he got to the park, "No, you're not pitching today. You've been suspended." Right. Which, to me, I mean, I don't know why they didn't just make a phone call and say, "Look, you know what? We're tired of the nonsense." And the Daily News reported that this was a compilation of events that dates back more than we're not talking just one incident. I mean, it's been a few incidents with him.
Straw that broke the camel's back.
Exactly. And so I mean, he shows up to the ballpark yesterday expecting to pitch, and then they say, "Well, no, you've been suspended."
Well, why
not just tell him on the phone or something?
They texted him, and he didn't look at it like I might do, or he didn't care. And he just showed up anyway because he wanted to, embarrass them a little bit. I mean, I assume when you get suspended, there's a certain process with the Players Association that you've been suspended. I assume you get a notice in the mail or something that says you've been suspended for 3 days, and here's why.
Well, John Heyman did report yesterday that Harvey is going to file a grievance with the Major League Players Association.
Right.
So and as a client of Scott Boras, you would expect that.
Yes, I actually think the Mets did the right thing by doing it face to face as opposed to a phone call, because I think they wanted more information from him, and there was probably a conversation or whatever, and then they, Sandy Alderson, Terry Collins, whoever, they said, talk to him, and then they made this decision based on all the information they had gathered to that point.
Well, I mean, from what I heard, the suspension started Saturday, so that's why I'm thinking that, I mean, he was suspended when he walked in the door yesterday. So I'm assuming it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then he'll pitch Tuesday. That's my assumption anyway. I don't know, but it's 3 days without pay. I mean, so the Mets can kind of spin that any way they want. I mean, if they're trying to make a point, and Terry Collins was talking about what a difficult decision it was and how tough this is to do. Well, at some point, it's one thing, like all the pre-show notes and stuff that I do. Mike Vaccaro from the Post basically wrote all of that in a column today. But Matt Harvey, if he's striking out 10 guys a game and dominating batters and his ERA is 2.5, you know what? The Mets don't care.
Right.
But the Matt Harvey that we've seen, and I looked at his stats last night, he hasn't been good since 2012. I mean, we're talking a lot of years here. And he's basically at this point, like I said, a number 3 starter. You don't put up with this kind of garbage from a number 3 starter who's not getting it done.
And the Mets drew the line in the sand, and that's
finally,
and they felt it got to that point, and this is it. Now now he's got to shape up. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
From the Mets point of view.
And the Mets, it's funny. This whole season started out like, oh, this is our year, this is our year. And this is actually worse than the last 2 years where they actually made the playoffs. This team is seemingly on a runaway train, not knowing where the hell it's going. And it just seems very lost as a team. We kept talking about the great pitching, but every year there's been problems with it. And as much as Bartolo Colon left, and I love Bartolo, maybe the Mets should have kept him.
He's been awful this year.
Yeah,
just so
I know.
you know. His
I
ERA
know,
is 5.5.
But he's on the Braves, for God's sake,
You know who's pitching well?
Good point.
R.A. Dickey's pitching pretty well. His ERA is about 3.5.
Well, he's on the Braves, too.
I know.
So it's a Brave thing. I think that new
Brave
stadium
new world
isn't really helping.
I do think we have to throw a little bit of cold water on. It is a long, long season.
Yes,
okay?
it is.
And we're still only in early
yeah.
May. If the Mets run off a 3-game winning streak, which is nothing to write home about, but if they win 3 in a row and then the Nationals lose 3 in a row, next thing you know, they've cut their deficit in half, and it's a long way to go because, it's easy to, apocalypse is now attitude day in and day out.
Right.
But I think we just have to, this is important and it needs to be addressed and handled. But I don't think it's going to end the season.
No, but it just seems like the Mets are just, even when they're losing, if you have that hope, I don't have that hope right now about this team.
True. If you're a diehard Met fan, you are not. You're not a happy camper. No, not at all.
Now, mind you, you're right. It is May, and it's only 1 month in. And
yes, I do try to stress on this show: early season, small sample size. There's 130 some games left.
I agree with that.
So let's not get too crazy. But it's with baseball season, it's a lot about feel. And if you look at what the Yankees are doing right now, you can see them exceeding expectations because this is a team that just keeps finding ways to win. And with the Mets, the injury situation right now is probably even worse than it was last season, and last season it was bad. But now, I mean, this is how bad it was. Sandy Alderson was on the Mets broadcast the other day talking about injuries and how debilitating they were. And as he was talking, Asdrubal Cabrera got hurt.
Yeah.
He rolled over his thumb, and they thought he tore ligaments or whatever. I mean, he didn't tear ligaments, so chances are he'll be back within a week. But that's how bad it is that while you're talking about injuries, somebody else gets hurt. So, but now what you're looking at with the Mets right now, all right, 2 things. Number one, their pitching staff has gone from being strength of the team to borderline disaster.
I agree.
Because DeGrom, I mean, who would have expected before the season started that we'd be talking about Zach Wheeler as one of the healthy guys on the Mets rotation? All right, first of all.
Never saw that coming.
Yeah. Second of all, if Matt Harvey can somehow get his way back, make peace with his teammates, because he's going to have to do that. Because if you don't show up for work as a baseball player, you have to answer to teammates. And there has to be an apology involved there, and him getting in front of the team in the clubhouse and saying to them, look, I screwed up, and I'm going to do everything I can to be the best teammate I can be.
Good point.
Because that they need to be able to trust him and that he's actually going to be there and do the work. Because Matt Harvey's training habits are not are not celebrated by anybody in MLB. And
if you're a star name and you're not performing well, you at least, at the minimum, have to be a clubhouse guy.
Yeah.
And have to be there and kind of lead the way inside the room. And he's not inside the room.
No. But with this suspension happening now, if Matt Harvey can somehow get his way back and become a productive pitcher, I can almost guarantee you that the Mets will trade him at the deadline if they aren't in the race anymore. And right now, it's looking like that will be the case.
If they're not in the race, because his contract ends at the end of the year.
No, next year.
Next year, I'm sorry.
But
so
the Mets,
2018.
2018 is his last season of his
sorry.
contract. So, but the Mets, I've said this for years. The Mets and Harvey have always been butting heads. Harvey has always had this need for the spotlight, and he wanted to be that superstar athlete, dating supermodels, and he's done all that. But it was okay when he was striking out 10 guys a game and his ERA was 2.5.
Is he dating a supermodel right now?
I have no idea.
If he's not, that could be the problem.
I know he was dating Ann V. There was that time when he went to the Ranger game with Ann V, and he was dating her for a while. But you're not going to allow this from a third starter. And we all know that Matt Harvey, when 2018, that offseason rolls around,